We're only a few short days away from the release of Rust World Update, which has been merged from Aux 2 into the main staging branch. And if you haven't seen the other 6 videos I've made on this update over the past month, you should go watch those. This is going to be one of the biggest updates to Rust that we've seen in a very long time, and it is really good. All the cliffs have been reworked, new rock formations have been added, new islands and rocks that surround the beach, new underwater dive sites and buoys, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Before we look at all the things that have changed with the cliffs and terrain and all of that, let's take a look at some of the other stuff that's happened this past week in the background. We're currently in the new Toxic Village, which is the new small Rattown monument, and it's been decked out with a bunch of loot boxes, food crates, barrels, and new music. And one of the most notable areas after messing around with this over the past few weeks is there's a diesel barrel in that van and all of these barrels over here, which means there's 2 diesel barrel spawns, some military crates, a bunch of brown boxes, food crates, car parts, barrel spawns, collectible radioactive water, and the traveling vendor and Bradley will pass through here. Meaning this is not only going to be a great spot to get loot, it's going to be an amazing place to take Bradley's towards the end of a wipe and also to try to safely purchase things from the traveling vendor. Also, I don't play with my music on that often, but like I said, I haven't heard this song before, so I think this is the new music added for this monument. Might have a little something to do with Halloween, which is coming up soon, and there's going to be a new Frankenstein mask as well as a new mummy mask. And these are 2 pretty spooky looking masks, which are probably going to be released on the Rust item store a little closer to the Halloween event. Progress is being made on these siege weapons that we talked about last week. Still very unknown as to what these are, and the only thing we know is that you'll be able to reload them with boulders. There was an issue with barricades not being able to be placed on top of the second variation of the underground train tunnel entrance, and I must be blind because I didn't know there was a second one of these unless it's new. You're no longer able to pick up tin can alarms if you're unauthorized in a TC's building privilege that they're placed within. The new building block zone that surrounds monuments has been fixed up so that when it's on top of the water, it's much easier to see. The Toxic Village and the Mining Outpost are 2 new additions to places that the patrol helicopter can crash at. And there's still a ton of work being done on the new AI for the wolves, which is another thing besides the world update that I'm extremely excited to see when it comes out. It's probably still going to be a little bit. These are 3 of the most recent commits towards it that I found interesting, and it's best that we just wait until it's a little more further down in development to talk about it more. When you press F1 and go to Tools, there's a new checkbox that's been added for the harvestable layer, which includes things like these pickupable nodes, and previously they were not categorized under any of these checkboxes, and this is extremely useful when you're on a private server as an admin taking pictures or doing cinematics. It looks like there's going to be a friends list UI probably built into the main menu, and then there was this commit which looks like it's going to make it a little easier for modders when they're coding in custom UI panels for their plugins. The high caliber revolver, which we got a first look at last week, has had its stats updated, it's been added to the tier 2 tech tree, and it shoots 5.56 bullets. It's more accurate at a longer range, does more damage, and shoots slower than the Python. I was hoping that this was going to be a tier 1 weapon, but I mean it is pretty strong and it makes sense that it's a tier 2. There's also the Blunderbuster, which looks like it's going to be a part of the new Frontier DLC along with the hazmat that I'm wearing right now. And this is going to be a skin for the double barrel shotgun. Alongside the Blunderbuster and the Frontier Hazmat in the Frontier DLC that's coming is going to be the Frontier Hatchet, which looks very cool, very nice. It's got some fuzzy stuff on it, a little dangly thing. And the high caliber revolver is going to take 3 pipes, 1 spring, and 10 HQM to craft. The DPV was also made craftable. It'll cost 75 metal fragments, and it was also added to the tier 1 workbench, which looks like it wasn't merged when I was recording this video, but it's probably going to be next to the spear gun on the left side when it does get merged. The underwater shadows, lighting, and effects have been adjusted, yet again making it even easier to see under the water. And you can see here when you get right up next to something that's pitch black and turn your abyss torch on, it actually works very nicely now. If you remember the last time that we took a look at this, it was very difficult to see even with a weapon flashlight, but now everything is much more clear. And I mean, you are under the water, you're not supposed to be able to see that far to begin with. So at the moment, it's better than it was before, making it a lot easier when you're driving a DPV under the water to see where the heck you're going. Only 1 Oasis will spawn on maps smaller than a size of 4,000. No canyons will spawn on maps smaller than 4,000, and 2 will always spawn on any map bigger than 5,000. Lakes will also only spawn 1 on smaller maps, probably smaller than 4,000. And only 1 canyon will spawn if it's going to block the amount of space required for another monument. Every monument is getting updated with the new cliffs. Unfortunately, this wasn't merged when I was recording this video. So I guess that means this is going to be a surprise for everybody once the force wipe hits. Some tweaks have been done to make sure that all the cliffs and rocks spawn with the correct textures depending on the biome that they spawn in. There's been some more tweaks and adjustments to make sure that they spawn correctly, and some other changes that allow cliffs to overlap things like railroads and roads so that it doesn't look weird when they spawn next to each other. And after all these adjustments over this past week, it feels more refined than it did before, and I'm sure there's a bunch of bugs and things that are going to change over the course of the next few months to make it even better than it is already. You can see here in this enclave, or whatever it's called, where the water goes inland, the beach rocks are spawning with the correct textures. They're spaced out much better than they were before. The cliffs look much better in the way that they generate, and once you start moving inland, the cliffs that spawn on hills and mountains are connected together much better than they were before, and some of them have a lot more variation. This is what I'm talking about as to feeling more like Rust in the way that these mountains are spawning their cliffs, and you can see here we're right next to the ferry terminal. We've got a mountain, and we've also got a god rock right there. Over by this other god rock, you can see this huge, dense forest which spans all the way down the entire left side of this map, and we're probably going to start seeing more clumps of forest like this due to the fact that lakes and canyons and Oasis are taking up more space, causing all these trees to push more towards each other, making these dense forests. Speaking of the lakes, they've had cliffs manually assigned to them. As to which ones are manually assigned, I'm assuming it's just the ones that are really close to the water, which was probably done so that there was no issues and so that other cliffs around the area can spawn correctly. It could also have something to do with the way that the trees spawn to make sure that they're on top of that cliffside and they form more of a dense little foresty area over there to give it a lakeside vibe. I'm not sure. Water purifiers will no longer be able to purify radioactive water, and before it even became a problem, there was a fix to splashing water through walls and foundations, which, if you use radioactive water, would kill anybody's plants inside of that base. The Crucible Grounds 2 will be starting up sometime mid-October, so make sure you get in the Discord if you're not already. There's a link in the description. This is where you'll also sign up for the event if you want to play in it, and we'll have signups closer to the event start date. I'll be posting video trailers as well as updates on the plugins over in the Discord, as well as on the new Crucible Grounds YouTube channel if you want to go subscribe over there. And all of this could not be done without the help of Lencorp and Lurk, the developers of Spoonkid and Winter Rust servers, who took my prototype from the first event and are fully customizing it from the ground up and turning it into something very special. But that's all I got for you guys today. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, leave a dislike if you didn't, and I'll catch you in the next one.